Hello, everybody. My name is Elijah.
And my name's Luke.
And we are the Eagles of Steel. So, today we are going to talk about DreamWorks movies now. We decided, if you guys didn't see our video last week, it was Pixar films. Just trying to, shake up the time during this football craziness that we'll cover next week. And this one, to be honest, is actually going to be way better than last week. Because DreamWorks has been much more prominent recently, especially with the release of Kung Fu Panda 4 that came out. A lot of controversy around that one. But this is going to be fun. And I hope you guys enjoy our lists, and just make sure you comment at the end of this video.
I like to start us off with my 3 honorable mentions. At number 13, I have Puss in Boots. At number 12, I have Madagascar 2. And at number 11, I have How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Ooh, that's a low one for How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Now, 2 of these I can explain about. Yes, Puss in Boots is the original one, but the newer version of Last Wish
is better.
Is better.
By a lot.
Madagascar 2, the reason why that's an honorable mention, I only just watched it recently, the full movie. I'm like, okay, this is okay. It's not, high up. It's only an honorable mention. But it's also, like I said, it's been only the first time. I haven't watched it multiple times. And this is controversial with How to Train Your Dragon 3. It really is. But the other 2 movies are way better. I can't believe I'm saying that, but there's it's a whole. It just connects to the other 2 movies along.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So my honorable mentions go to number 13 being Kung Fu Panda 3, 12 being Madagascar Escape to Africa, and number 11 being Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron.
So what is that? 'Cause I haven't heard that before.
So I'm going to go over each one individually first. So Kung Fu Panda 3, with that movie, I could not decide between 3 and 4 for Kung Fu Panda. The only reason why 3 is a little higher now than 4 is because of one thing, and one thing only. The soundtrack is still on par with 2 and 1. 4 almost took that by the wayside, except for 1, which was near the end, which I'm not going to spoil if you didn't see the movie. But all in all, though, it's probably definitely the weakest when it comes down to its action and everything. The villain in the movie Kai, he's fine. He was definitely nowhere near the first 2, but he's still a good villain. And J.K. Simmons played him well. Now for Madagascar 2, it is the best film of the Madagascar series, and it only hits my honorable mention because I was never really a huge fan of the movies in general. But this one caught my eye just because, for as goofy and as crude as it still has its serious moments where I was able to kind of be like, okay, I really like that. It's not too overbearing, and it had things to keep it real, but at the same time it was crazy. Now, number 11 being Spirit. This one is very fun. All it does is there's narration, music, and very good visuals. That's all it needs right there. Those 3 things. Right? It easily could have made it into my top 10, but there's so many good DreamWorks movies right now that it just couldn't fit itself in there at this point. But it definitely holds up today. It's worth a watch if you guys are interested in DreamWorks films, especially 2D ones. So there you go.
Anyways, number 10. Start to our top 10. I'm going to start with the original Madagascar. Now, you may be controversial about this. I like the soundtrack in it. The soundtrack's pretty good, and I mean, it's the original movie, so it starts off like, oh, they start off in New York.
Yeah.
But then everything goes downhill when they get thrown off the ship. No spoiler anyway. Then eventually they end up in Madagascar. But at first they're like, oh, they didn't enjoy it, and then they started enjoying it more as it went on. But
there's a little more to it than that. Like when
I'm just giving the basics of it.
Like when one of the main characters hurts another main character physically.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen the movie, you would
know.
I'm not gonna let you know because that's kind of a spoiler. But
there's a lot to it than just the whole ship thing and Madagascar. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, there is. Let's just say they like to move it. Oh. All right, my number 10 is Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So, the reason why this one beats out all these other ones is because nostalgia alone. I grew up with the original kind of like movies or show, let's say, of Wallace and Gromit. Of like The Grand Day Out, Wrong Trousers, they had one was called, Close Shave, and then Matter of Loaf and Death that came out around the same time, I think. But all in all, like, I loved watching those when I was kind of growing up. And this movie goes right along with that tone, but also stayed serious too, and like the soundtrack was great. It's such a fun movie to watch, and yeah, that's definitely why it's here. Next up for number 9, I have The Prince of Egypt, an old 2D animated film that is extremely underrated because the soundtrack. I'm not even a musical guy, but this movie, the soundtrack is so good.
What is it about anyway? Do you even know?
Well, The Prince of Egypt is about pretty much the biblical story of Exodus, at least the beginning of it, when the Pharaoh started killing off the first, like kind of like the firstborns or whatever.
Oh, that was one of the plagues.
No. It was it was the beginning of the movie when they fed them to the lake.
Oh.
The babies, the Israelites to the lake, or the Hebrews.
So it's basically the story of Moses, pretty much.
It's the story of Moses. And they did it so like a DreamWorks way, where it was funny at the beginning, and they like established a relationship between Moses and the son of the Pharaoh, and it ended up becoming a very personal thing at the end, and it was. I'm not gonna say it's full on accurate to the original because there's definitely parts that was like I see not there, but what it did do was incredibly good, and I can't say enough about it. Extremely underrated.
Anyways, my number 9, I have Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and again, like you said, very very nostalgic.
Yes,
they did. It's probably one of the only movies I've watched of Wallace and Gromit, but it was a great movie. Anyways, not much to say there, but my number 8, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
It's definitely a modern good movie right now.
And yeah, it's literally one of the. I've watched bits and pieces of it, but the bits and pieces I've watched, it's really good. Like, it's a newer movie too. It's like, what is it? When it came out in like 2021, something like that.
I think it was like 2021.
But anyways, very good modern movie. It's honestly better than the original, like, because I have that as an honorable mention. But the soundtrack is also spot on too, and the storyline itself is great.
Yeah. So, okay, this one might be a little controversial for my end here. My number 8 is Shrek.
Explain, sir.
So here's the thing. This movie has a major nostalgia, and that's why it's definitely still in my top 10. However, I just like the other movies that I have above this list just better. Like, I love this movie. Don't get me wrong. It is one of the most memorable movies on this list. I could quote most of the entire movie straight through. I enjoy this movie a lot. The animation just doesn't hold up anymore. You can tell it's older. The story is fun. I love it. I don't know what to say. Like, the negatives at this point are just because of age.
Why don't you go to your number 7 before I say something?
Yes. My number 7 has to go to the first Kung Fu Panda. So, with Kung Fu Panda 1, the fact that he, like, the way he was in that movie went from being pretty much nothing to being a kick-butt Kung Fu fighter was also good. Plus, can't emphasize enough, between this and Shrek, the soundtrack is superb. Okay, let me say right now, the soundtracks on all these movies are superb. None of them are bad. Like, I couldn't rank these all from soundtrack alone because they're all so good. So I had to go with other things, and for me, I love action movies, and that's why Kung Fu Panda is just a little above Shrek. Shrek has nostalgia, but Kung Fu Panda also has that in me too now. Came out in 2008, so I was like 8 years old when it came out, and it was so... Oh, man, I can't say anymore. Like, what's your number 7?
Shrek 2.
Ooh,
I have a
there we
number
go.
7. Probably controversial to you, but...
It's fine. It's still there. It's still there.
Very action-packed, and you get to introduce Puss himself in Shrek 2. And I really liked when they introduced him because it added another character to the film.
Yeah.
And
Feel me if you dare.
Anyways, adding the fairy godmother as a villain was good.
It's a fun little twist that DreamWorks loves to do when it makes some fun of Disney films. What? I didn't say that.
Anyways, number 6, I have How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Oh, okay.
I know that it's probably higher for you, but it is a serious movie too. And the villain is good, soundtrack is good, and the storyline is well done too because it comes off based off of the original How to Train Your Dragon 2.
So, I'm actually going to touch up on it because my number 6 is also How to Train Your Dragon 2. Here's why. The things I want to touch up on that. The soundtrack, like I said, is still good. Like all these soundtracks are good, so there's not much I can really say about it. I can hum it all day long. But the reason why it's actually the weakest of the dragon movies for me is because the villain, Drago Bloodfist, he was very basic. His motivations were not really well developed, and he was just kind of there, almost, for me. However, though, there were different reveals in the movie, certain serious moments I'm not going to spoil if you haven't seen it, because you should see it. And I see the character of Hiccup and his relations to everybody in the movie still really hold up, and it's still just a really good movie. That being said, number 5 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I have it a little higher than you, but the reason why I have it at number 5 is, by far, it is the best, newest movie that DreamWorks has released.
I could go along with that.
And to be honest, it is not even close. The ones that it competes with at this point, the bad guys, it's okay. Teenage Kraken, what the frick is that? And Kung Fu Panda 4 is solid, but it's definitely not even in a top, 13 related to me. So, Puss in Boots, by far, is so good. The characters in it. It has 3 villains, but somehow, some way, it makes all 3 villains good. No movie can do that. I have not seen a movie be able to carry it that way and still be good. Having the Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Having the... what is the frick that guy, his name is? The one that has the pies. I don't know what his name is. I always forget. Even though I forget his name, he's still good. And then having the wolf in that movie is by far the best.
AKA Death.
Death, yeah. Spoilers, sorry. Very, definitely a dark tone, but also lighthearted enough to keep the kids interested, you know? Oh, man, okay. That's what I have to say about it. What's up for you?
Number 5, I have Kung Fu Panda 4. I know you're very controversial about this.
Okay. That's very controversial of you, but I respect it. I respect it.
It's a Kung Fu Panda movie, okay?
Yeah.
I watched it one time. When I did watch it, I'm like, wow. They did a real good job, not really tying anything. But the soundtrack is also, obviously it's very controversial with the soundtrack. but it still has some of the original soundtracks in it. Not all of them, but
Yeah.
But anyways, my number 4, I have the original Kung Fu Panda.
Okay, at least you have that above it.
I do. And anyways, obviously it's the original movie, so I was going to tie off of what you said earlier. It goes from just being a normal panda to being like, I kick butt.
Yeah.
But and the villain in that movie is also amazing.
Tai Lung.
Tai Lung. Spoilers. Sorry.
It's not that much spoiler because he's introduced pretty early on, so.
That's true. Obviously, the soundtrack's amazing in it.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, it's the original.
Dun 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 dun.
Okay. Before I start singing, do your number 4.
Yes, sorry. I can go on and on. All right, my number 4 is Shrek 2. It is the best Shrek movie to date, in my opinion. Beats out Shrek 1, not by much. I know there's a difference between 4 and 8 on my list here, but it is not. You know how hard it was to rate these.
I'm sure it wasn't.
I almost didn't want to rate them because there's all these movies are great to watch. They're always rewatchable. But for me, if I had to rewatch between Shrek 1 and 2, I'm going with Shrek 2. Reason why I love the soundtrack, in my opinion, is actually better in Shrek 2. The Puss in Boots was introduced. Fairy Godmother's a better villain than Farquaad. Prince Charming was funny. You had actors like John Cleese and like Julia Andrews in it. Like, it was such a big movie compared to the first one, and it was so good. And it holds up. The thing is, the animation actually still holds up today too, which is crazy. Like Shrek 1, like it looks aged, but Shrek 2 holds up, and that's what's crazy. Number 3. How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. So, the reason why it's better than the second one by far is the villain. The villain is so good.
Grimmel the Grizzly.
Yes. Grimmel. He's pretty much, he's not like super buff. He's not like a giant dragon. He's somebody who looks just as like scrawny and like weak as Hiccup. But instead of befriending dragons like Hiccup became, he was the opposite of what Hiccup was and tried to kill everything. And he was a really good killer. And that's why he was a scary villain. And that's why the Hidden World is so much better. And also the way it ended, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a heartbreaker. All I was going to say.
It is. I'll tie on to that. Yeah, it is a heartbreaker of an ending.
Yeah. Now, how about you?
My number 3, I know this is controversial because you just named the second one of this film is Shrek.
Like I said, it was super hard to rank all these, so if you like Shrek one more, it's fine.
Very nostalgic for me.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that. Obviously, introduced Fiona when he goes. I'm not going to spoil it, but introduced some characters like the original Shrek himself. Then you had Donkey, and then introduced Fiona as well. But
yeah,
the storyline kind of relates in a way for me.
Mm-hmm.
And how it relates, but anyways,
about not being judged by how you look or how you are.
That's not it was.
Because that's the main theme of the movie.
Well, that can be.
To be honest, that is something that we can both easily struggle with. So
yes. Anyways, my number 2, I have Kung Fu Panda 2. At number 2,
talk about a movie.
My number 1, number 2 were hard to rank because they were both so good.
Yeah, I know.
Serious villain in that movie. Like, he was so good. Like, it even brought back nostalgia for Poe himself in the movie. Not trying to put any spoilers out there, but because you want to watch it. Because it brings back his past. Like,
yeah.
It's,
okay.
Anyway.
You don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, that's true.
My number 2 is the first How to Train Your Dragon. Most people have this as their number 1. The reason why it's my number 2 is because I think there is a movie that's better. Slightly. Very slightly. But with How to Train Your Dragon, oh gosh. Dun 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 da da. Please don't copyright me. Because it's so good. But like this is when the movie introduced Hiccup and Toothless as in their first thing. I can't emphasize how beautiful this movie is, and it still holds up. It came out in 2010, and it still holds today. It's 14 years later. Oh gosh!
Bring with that number one, sir.
My number one is his number two, Kung Fu Panda 2. This movie is beautiful. It is a masterpiece. To be honest, it's probably one of my best movies of all time, not just DreamWorks. Hear me out. Gary Oldman being Lord Shen. Best casting choice ever for that role. He's so menacing, so good. The movie is so dark, yet it is so funny at the same time.
That's why I said it's serious.
Keeps me interested. The soundtrack for the Kung Fu Panda series, along with How to Train Your Dragon, is just unmatched, man. Like, no movies, not even Shrek in my opinion, holds up to those two soundtracks. Like, I don't know where I could begin with it. Like, da 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 da.
All right, that's enough.
Sorry. I could hum all day, man. Like, like we're humming it because we get copyrighted if we actually do the actual soundtracks and play them for you. Believe me, you like all this video would just be music, if we could. But with Kung Fu Panda 2, by far the biggest masterpiece on this list, no doubt, is better than all these movies, and oh gosh, the amount of times I rewatched this movie. I've watched this movie at least 15 to 20 times. It is so good. Okay, what's your number one?
I have your number two, How to Train Your Dragon.
Makes sense.
Like I said, it was hard to pick between the original How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda 2. It was so hard.
Yeah.
I have it as one. As you were saying before, I'll tell for what you said. Soundtrack's amazing. They introduced all the main characters. You forgot about naming Astrid, too.
Astrid, the relationship
Astrid.
there.
Gosh.
You know how many things are so good about that movie?
Obviously, you gotta include Stoic in there as well.
Oh, yeah, Stoic.
Stoic, Astrid, Hiccup, Toothless. Like, the friendship between those two.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, Lily, what Toothless is, he literally acts like a cat.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that, and that's all I'm gonna say. And if you've seen this movie, please watch it.
Please, guys.
Watch these top two.
It is so good.
Like, watch the top two films, because basically our 1 and 2 is flipped. But watch them both. Anyways, some interesting list for some DreamWorks movies.
It is. This was probably the one list on our like movie things that we're going to be going over that I was most looking forward to, and because of how much I love these movies. I love DreamWorks. To be honest, I think DreamWorks is better than Pixar right now.
Oh, I totally agree with you on that.
I might have watched Pixar a lot growing up, but I also watched DreamWorks a lot. And a lot of the movies recently have actually been at least solid, if not really good. Pixar, what have they had recently that's actually been good?
Not really.
Nothing. They've had nothing since Onward. Nothing. If you watch our last video, you know how much I hated Toy Story 4. You know how much Turning Red's terrible. You know how much Soul's terrible. You know how much, like, Luca's terrible. You know how much any of those are just terrible movies. Lightyear's really bad. Like, none of them.
I didn't even watch that.
I watched it. It was actually, it was bad. It was just so bad. At least DreamWorks is staying relevant and good. People were complaining about some of the newer DreamWorks movies not having a big budget. I don't care if it's a big budget. If you can make a beautiful story and beautiful animation with less budget,
it's totally
do it.
Totally,
it's still good. Puss in Boots was made for like $95 million, and which is about 2 times to 3 times cheaper than the modern Pixar movie, and it's still better than all of them. Sorry, I just went on a huge rant right there. But anyway, leave
like and to subscribe. Whatever the button is probably gonna be like right here.
And please comment your list below. It is very appreciated. I would love to see your guys' opinions on this. It's super good.
I'm honestly kind of interested to see what you guys have as a top 10 list.
Yeah, I know.
Please send your top 10 list through there.
Yep. And as always, this is Elijah.
And this is Luke.
And we are the Eagles of Steel. Bye.